The sun was setting over the coastal skyline as Pam Bondi pulled up to the grand entrance of the Coastal Palms Resort. Towering palm trees lined the circular driveway, and a massive fountain sparkled in the fading light. After a 6-hour flight and an hour-long drive from the airport, exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. She wore simple jeans and a navy blouse, comfortable travel clothes, rather than the tailored suits she typically favored for work. A valet approached her rental car with a practiced smile that faltered slightly when he took in her casual appearance. "Checking in?" he asked, his tone carrying a hint of doubt. "Yes," Pam replied with a tired smile. "Long day of travel." The valet nodded and handed her a ticket. "Your luggage will be brought to your room, eventually. We're a bit understaffed today." He gestured vaguely toward the entrance before, turning his attention to a sleek, black SUV pulling up behind her. Pam gathered her handbag and small carry-on, making her way through the grand double doors of the hotel. The lobby was exactly as she'd seen in photos: soaring ceilings with crystal chandeliers, marble floors polished to a mirror shine, and plush seating areas where well-dressed guests sipped colorful cocktails. The air smelled of fresh flowers and expensive perfume. At the reception desk, 3 staff members huddled together, speaking in hushed, excited tones. Their attention was focused across the lobby where a small commotion seemed to be occurring. Photographers and hotel staff surrounding someone Pam couldn't see. She approached the desk and stood waiting. 10 seconds passed, 20, 30. "Excuse me," she finally said, her voice firm but pleasant. A young man with a name tag reading Theo glanced up, his expression making it clear her interruption was unwelcome. "One moment, please," he said before returning to the conversation with his colleagues. Pam took a deep breath and looked around the lobby. She'd read the guest reviews, of course. Complaints about inconsistent service had increased over the past 6 months. The numbers told part of the story, but experiencing it firsthand was something else entirely. Nearly 2 minutes passed before Theo finally turned to her, his eyes still occasionally darting toward the commotion across the lobby. "Checking in?" he asked, not bothering to welcome her or introduce himself. "Yes, I have a reservation under Bondi." "Pam Bondi." Theo tapped at his keyboard, his movements lacking any sense of urgency. "Bondi. Bondi. Oh, here it is. You're booked for 5 nights?" "That's right. ID and credit card, please." Pam handed them over, watching as Theo barely glanced at her ID before swiping her credit card. "So that's a standard room on the 3rd floor. City view," he said, already reaching for key cards. Pam frowned. "That doesn't sound right. I specifically booked an ocean view room on a high floor." Theo's fingers returned to the keyboard, tapping with visible annoyance. "The reservation shows standard room, city view. Could you check again, please? I have the confirmation email." Pam reached for her phone. Theo sighed. "Look, we're fully booked because of the film festival. The celebrity guests get priority for the ocean view rooms." He nodded toward the commotion across the lobby. "That's why we're so busy right now. I can put in a request, but honestly, it probably won't happen." Pam kept her expression neutral. "I understand you're busy, but I'd appreciate if you could check if there are any ocean view rooms available. My confirmation specifically shows that room type." A woman with sleek auburn hair and a name tag reading Vivian leaned over from the next station. "Just give her 312, Theo. It has a partial ocean view if you lean out over the balcony." She didn't bother lowering her voice or acknowledging Pam directly. Theo shrugged. 312 it is. Breakfast is included, served from 6:30 to 10 how. Pool closes at 8 how. Anything else? "Is there a manager available?" Pam asked calmly. "Not right now," Theo replied too quickly. "They're all handling the VIP check-in." He gestured across the lobby. "I see. When would be a good time to speak with one?" Theo and Vivian exchanged a glance. "You can try tomorrow," Vivian offered. "But if it's about the room, I wouldn't bother." "We really are fully booked," Pam nodded slowly. "Thank you for the information. I'll settle in for tonight." Theo handed over 2 key cards and a paper folder. "Elevators are to your right. Your luggage will be brought up when the bellhops are available." "Thank you," Pam said, taking the keys. "By the way, I noticed the property is owned by Meridian Hospitality Group. Is that still current?" Theo barely looked up from his screen. "Yeah, they bought us last year. Big corporate takeover." "Why?" "Just curious." I try to keep track of hotel ownership. She offered a smile that wasn't returned. Room 312, Theo repeated, already turning away as another guest approached the desk. Next, please. Pam made her way to the elevators, pulling her small carry-on behind her. As she waited, she observed the staff's behavior from a distance. The contrast was striking. The team across the lobby attending to the VIP guest moved with purpose and professionalism. Meanwhile, regular guests approached the front desk only to receive the same dismissive treatment she'd experienced. The elevator arrived, and Pam stepped inside along with an older couple who were discussing their own check-in experience. Completely unprofessional, the man was saying. We've been coming here for 15 years and I've never seen service this poor. His wife nodded in agreement. Did you see how they rushed us through while fawning over that actor? We're paying guests too. Pam smiled sympathetically. Checking in was quite an experience, the woman sighed. It never used to be like this. The previous management team ran this place like clockwork. Ever since the corporate takeover, it's been going downhill. That's unfortunate, Pam replied. How long are you staying? Just the weekend, the man answered. Annual tradition, though we might break it after this year. The elevator stopped on the 3rd floor, and they all stepped out. Enjoy your stay, despite everything, the woman said kindly as they turned in opposite directions. You too, Pam replied. Room 312 was at the end of a long hallway with faded carpet that had clearly seen better days. Pam swiped her keycard twice before the light turned green. Inside, the room was clean but showed signs of wear. The promised partial ocean view was indeed partial, a sliver of blue visible only from the edge of the small balcony. Pam set down her bag and took out her notebook. She jotted down her observations so far, then pulled out her phone to check emails. 3 new messages from the corporate office appeared, including one marked urgent from her assistant. She dialed the number. Pam, how was your flight? Her assistant asked, long but uneventful. I've just checked into the Coastal Palms. And? First impressions? Pam sat on the edge of the bed. Let's just say there's a lot of work to be done. The staff has no idea who I am, which is exactly what I wanted. Are you going to tell them tomorrow at the meeting? That's the plan. For now, I'm going to experience the hotel as a regular guest. The board wants a complete assessment, and that's what they'll get. The CEO called twice today. He's anxious about the numbers from last quarter. I'm not surprised. Based on what I've seen in just 30 minutes, the Coastal Palms is a property in trouble. But it has potential. Pam walked to the window, looking at the sliver of ocean visible in the distance. The location is still prime. The building is gorgeous, and with the right leadership, if anyone can turn it around, it's you, her assistant said confidently. We'll see, Pam replied. I'll need a comprehensive staff list for tomorrow's meeting, and make sure my introduction is kept confidential until then. Already done. The general manager is the only one who knows you're coming. Perfect. I'll call you tomorrow after the meeting. Pam ended the call and looked around the room again. Her luggage still hadn't arrived. She decided to head back downstairs to inquire about it, and perhaps observe a bit more of the hotel operations in the process. The next morning, Pam woke to sunlight filtering through the thin curtains of room 312. Her luggage had finally arrived at 11 the previous night, delivered by a bellhop who didn't bother to hide his annoyance at the late delivery. She'd spent the evening exploring the hotel, noting both its strengths and weaknesses. The property itself was beautiful, with stunning architecture and excellent amenities. The staff, however, was another story. Pam dressed in casual but neat clothes, khaki pants and a light blue button-up shirt, and headed downstairs for breakfast. The hotel restaurant was busy, with guests filling most of the tables. A sign at the entrance read, "Please wait to be seated," but no host was present. Pam waited patiently for 5 minutes before a server finally noticed her. Just one? The young woman asked, grabbing a menu without making eye contact. Yes, just me, Pam replied with a smile. The server led her to a small table near the kitchen doors, despite several better tables being available with ocean views. Someone will be with you shortly, she said, dropping the menu on the table before hurrying away. Pam observed the restaurant's operation while waiting. 2 servers chatted by the coffee station, laughing and showing each other something on their phones. Meanwhile, several tables had empty plates waiting to be cleared, and at least 3 parties were trying to get a server's attention. After 15 minutes, a different server approached her table. Ready to order? he asked, pen poised over his notepad. I haven't been offered coffee yet, Pam replied. The server, whose name tag read Alex, sighed. We're short-staffed. What do you want to drink? Coffee black, please. And I'll have the avocado toast with poached eggs. Kitchen's backed up. It'll be a wait. That's fine, Pam said. I'm not in a rush. As Alex walked away, Pam pulled out her notebook and began making notes. The food quality would need to be assessed, but the service issues were already glaringly obvious. She'd read through the employee files the night before. The hotel wasn't understaffed at all. In fact, their staffing levels were higher than the industry average for a property this size. Her coffee arrived 10 minutes later, and her breakfast 15 minutes after that. The avocado toast was actually quite good, which confirmed her suspicion that the kitchen wasn't the problem. When she finished eating, she had to wave down Alex to get the check. After breakfast, Pam decided to inquire about the hotel's meeting facilities. According to her information, the Coastal Palms had recently renovated their conference center, investing over $2 million in updates. As the regional director, she needed to see if this investment was being properly utilized and marketed. At the concierge desk, she found 3 staff members huddled together. One woman was showing photos on her phone while the others laughed. None of them looked up as Pam approached. Excuse me, Pam said after a moment. The woman with the phone, her name tag read Danny, glanced up with an expression that made it clear Pam was interrupting something important. Yes? I'd like some information about your meeting facilities, Pam said. I understand you have a conference center? Danny sighed and put her phone down reluctantly. Yes, we have meeting rooms. They're mostly booked for the film festival this week. I'm interested in possibly booking an event for my company next month. Could I get some information about the spaces available and pricing? The other 2 staff members drifted away, leaving Danny to handle the inquiry. What kind of event? She asked, not bothering to reach for any of the brochures visible on the desk behind her. A corporate retreat for about 50 people. We'd need a main meeting room and probably some smaller breakout spaces. Danny's expression remained uninterested. You should talk to events. They handle that stuff. Is there someone from the events team available now? Probably not on a Saturday. Danny picked up her phone again, clearly ready to end the conversation. Could I perhaps see the spaces? Just to get a sense of what's available? Danny looked up, irritation clear on her face. Look, the rooms are either in use or being set up for festival events. If you want to book something, you need to call our events coordinator during business hours, Monday through Friday. I see. Could I at least get a brochure or information packet? With a dramatic sigh, Danny turned and grabbed a wrinkled brochure from the desk behind her. Here, basic info is in there. Rates probably change, though. Thank you. Could you also tell me where the business center is? I need to print some documents. 2nd floor, past the spa. Danny was already looking back at her phone. And is there someone there who can assist with technical issues if needed? This question seemed to push Danny past her threshold of patience. Look, the business center is self-service. If you're not comfortable with basic computer stuff, maybe you should try the budget hotel down the street. They have a manager who holds everyone's hand through everything. She smirked as one of her colleagues returned and caught the tail end of her comment. Yeah, the colleague added with a laugh. Or there's a library in town if you need computer help. Pam kept her expression neutral. I see. Thank you for your assistance. As she walked away, she could hear the staff members laughing behind her. She made another note in her small notebook before heading to the 2nd floor. The business center was deserted and poorly maintained. 2 of the 4 computers had out-of-order signs on them. The printer was showing an error message and the room itself was dusty and uninviting. Pam took a few photos with her phone before leaving. She decided to check out the pool area next. The outdoor pool was one of the hotel's featured amenities, with an infinity edge overlooking the ocean. When she arrived, she found the area busy with guests enjoying the sunshine. She took a seat at one of the few available loungers and observed. A pool attendant was helping guests from what appeared to be a wealthy family, bringing them towels and taking drink orders. Other guests, however, were left to fend for themselves. Pam watched as an older couple struggled to adjust their umbrella with no assistance offered. After 20 minutes, Pam approached the pool bar to order a water. The bartender was busy mixing elaborate cocktails for a group of young guests who were being loud and disruptive. When she finally caught his attention, she asked, Could I get a bottle of water, please? We're out of the small bottles, he replied without looking at her. Only large ones left. $8. That's fine. He grabbed a large bottle from a cooler, set it on the counter, and immediately turned back to the rowdy group without even telling her the total. Pam left a $10 bill on the counter and returned to her lounger. As she sipped her water, she checked her emails. Her assistant had confirmed that everything was set for tomorrow's meeting. The general manager, the only staff member who knew who Pam really was, had arranged for all department heads and supervisors to be present at HOA AM. The email also contained a full staff roster and the latest performance metrics for the property. The numbers were worse than she'd initially thought. Guest satisfaction scores had dropped by 32% in the last 6 months. Online reviews averaged 2.3 stars out of 5, with service being the most frequent complaint. Meanwhile, operating costs had increased, and revenue was down by almost 20% compared to the same period last year. Pam closed her email app and looked around the pool area again. The beautiful property was being wasted by poor management, and a staff that clearly lacked both training and motivation. She thought about Danny's snide comment about the budget hotel down the street and made another note in her book. By late afternoon, Pam had explored most of the hotel and had a comprehensive list of issues to address. She returned to her room to prepare for the next day's meeting. From her suitcase, she pulled out a pressed navy suit, crisp white blouse, and the business cards that identified her as Pam Bondi, Regional Director of Meridian Hospitality Group. She laid out her clothes for the morning and reviewed her notes one more time. Tomorrow would be interesting, to say the least. The staff who had dismissed her, ignored her, and even mocked her would discover exactly who they'd been treating so poorly. But Pam wasn't focused on embarrassing them. She was focused on fixing a broken hotel and restoring it to the standard of excellence that guests deserved. Her phone rang. It was the general manager. "Tom Wells, everything set for tomorrow?" Pam asked after greeting him. "Yes, all department heads will be there at 9 WAG sharp. They think it's a routine performance review. No one suspects anything. Good. I've seen enough these past 24 hours to know we have our work cut out for us." "That bad?" Tom asked, concern evident in his voice. "Worse," Pam replied, "but fixable. I'll see you in the morning, Tom." She hung up and walked to the window, looking out at the sliver of ocean visible from her partial ocean view room. After a quick shower, she stood before the mirror, no longer the casual guest in jeans and a simple blouse. Today she dressed in her navy suit, crisp white blouse, and low heels. She styled her hair neatly and applied light, professional makeup. The transformation was striking, from an easily dismissed hotel guest to the polished executive she truly was. She ordered room service for breakfast, curious to see if morning service had improved. It hadn't. Her coffee arrived lukewarm, and the server barely glanced at her before rushing off without a word. Pam made one final note in her book, and then tucked it into her leather portfolio along with printouts of the hotel's performance metrics and her prepared talking points. At 8:30, she texted Tom Wells, the general manager, "I'll meet you in your office at 8:45. "Confirmed," came his immediate reply. Pam took one last look in the mirror, straightening her blazer. She wasn't here to embarrass anyone or to seek revenge for the poor treatment she'd received. Her job was to fix a broken hotel and restore both guest satisfaction and profitability. Still, she couldn't help but look forward to the expressions on certain staff members' faces when they realized who she really was. She left room 312 and headed for the elevator. In the hallway, she passed a housekeeper who was chatting on her phone while half-heartedly pushing a cleaning cart. The woman didn't even look up as Pam walked by. The elevator doors opened to reveal Theo, the front desk clerk who had checked her in 2 days ago. He was speaking to another staff member and barely glanced at Pam as she entered. Neither of them paused their conversation. "So I told her I couldn't change her room and she actually asked for a manager," Theo was saying with a laugh. "Like that would make any difference." His colleague snickered. "What did she expect? Special treatment?" "Exactly. These people think they're so important." Pam stood quietly, listening to their unprofessional conversation. They were still talking about guests dismissively when the elevator reached the lobby level. The doors opened and they exited, not bothering to hold the door for Pam. She made her way to the management offices located in a separate wing behind the main lobby. A receptionist looked up as she entered. "Can I help you?" she asked, clearly not recognizing Pam as someone who belonged in the executive area. I'm here to see Tom Wells, Pam replied. The receptionist frowned. Do you have an appointment? Yes, Pam said simply. Your name? Pam Bondi. The receptionist checked a calendar on her computer, then looked back at Pam with slight confusion. Oh, I see. Let me tell him you're here. She picked up the phone and spoke quietly. A moment later, she hung up and pointed to a door on the right. You can go in. He's expecting you. Tom Wells rose from behind his desk as Pam entered. He was a tall man in his 50s with graying hair and a worried expression. Ms. Bondi, good morning, he said, extending his hand. Good morning, Tom, Pam replied, shaking his hand firmly. And please call me Pam. How was your stay? He asked, gesturing for her to sit. Pam took a seat across from his desk. Educational, she said with a slight smile. I've learned a great deal about the current state of the coastal palms. Tom's expression grew more concerned. I've been trying to address the service issues. Pam held up a hand. We'll discuss all of that in the meeting. For now, I'd like to know who will be attending. Tom pulled out a sheet of paper. All department heads, front office manager, housekeeping director, food and beverage manager, events coordinator, head of maintenance, and the HR director. Plus their direct reports, and about 20 people total, including Danny from the concierge desk and Theo from the front desk? Tom nodded. Yes, they'll be there. They're both shift supervisors, though I've had concerns about their performance. Good, Pam said. I've had interesting interactions with both of them. Tom winced. I was afraid of that. It's actually perfect, Pam said. I needed to see the true state of operations here, not a performance put on for the regional director's visit. That's why I asked to check in anonymously. And what did you find? Tom asked hesitantly. Pam looked him directly in the eyes. A beautiful property with enormous potential being dragged down by poor service and unprofessional staff. The good news is we can fix it. Relief flashed across Tom's face. I was worried you'd recommend selling the property. That was on the table, Pam admitted. The numbers certainly justify it. But after seeing this place firsthand, I think we have something worth saving. It will take work, though, and some difficult decisions. Tom nodded gravely. I understand. Pam checked her watch. It's time. Let's go. They walked together to the hotel's main conference room. Through the glass doors, Pam could see that most of the staff had already arrived. They sat in groups, chatting casually, unaware of what was about to happen. Tom entered first, with Pam following a step behind. The room gradually fell silent as people noticed them. Pam immediately spotted Danny from the concierge desk, sitting near the back with her phone in hand. Theo was near the front, whispering something to a colleague. Neither of them paid particular attention to Pam at first. Good morning, everyone, Tom said, his voice carrying across the room. Thank you all for being here on time. We have an important visitor with us today. Heads turned toward Pam, and she noticed the exact moment recognition dawned on Danny's face. The phone slipped from the woman's fingers, clattering onto the table. Theo stopped mid-sentence, his mouth hanging slightly open. I'd like to introduce Pam Bondi, Regional Director of Meridian Hospitality Group, Tom continued. Ms. Bondi has been staying with us for the past 2 days, experiencing our hotel as a guest. A wave of whispers spread through the room. Faces paled as staff members who had interacted with Pam realized the implications. Pam stepped forward, setting her portfolio on the podium at the front of the room. Good morning, she said, her voice calm and professional. For those of you who don't recognize me, I checked in 2 days ago as a regular guest. I've experienced your hotel exactly as any other guest would, from check-in to dining, from concierge services to the pool area. She paused, letting her gaze move across the room. Danny was now staring at the table, her face flushed red. Theo looked like he might be sick. I didn't come here to catch anyone doing something wrong, Pam continued. I came to understand why a beautiful property with a prime location and excellent amenities has seen a 32% drop in guest satisfaction and a 20% decline in revenue over the past 6 months. She opened her portfolio and pulled out several printed charts. These numbers tell part of the story, but the real story is what I experienced personally. For the next 10 minutes, Pam detailed her stay, the dismissive check-in, the long wait for luggage, the poor service at breakfast, the unhelpful concierge staff, and the general lack of professionalism throughout the property. She didn't name individuals, but her examples were specific enough that everyone knew who she was talking about. Now, I could stand here and lecture you all on what went wrong, she said, closing her portfolio. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because Meridian Hospitality Group believes the Coastal Palms can be one of our premier properties again. I'm here because despite everything I've seen in the past 2 days, I believe it too. The tension in the room shifted slightly. Confused glances were exchanged as staff members realized they weren't all about to be fired on the spot. Starting today, we're implementing a comprehensive turnaround plan, Pam announced. Some changes will be immediate. Others will take time. All of them will require commitment from every person in this room. She nodded to Tom, who distributed folders to everyone present. These packets outline our new service standards and training programs. Everyone, from management to frontline staff, will participate. A hand went up hesitantly near the back of the room. It was Danny. Yes? Pam acknowledged her. Danny's voice was barely audible. Will there be staff changes? The question everyone was thinking but afraid to ask. Pam looked directly at her. There will be changes at every level, but I believe in giving people the opportunity to improve before making those decisions. Over the next 30 days, each of you will be evaluated based on your willingness to embrace our new standards and your ability to deliver exceptional service. She paused before adding, I know what it's like to be judged based on a first impression. Sometimes those impressions are wrong. I'm willing to believe that what I've seen these past 2 days isn't the best you have to offer. Relief washed over many faces, though uncertainty remained. Pam wasn't making promises, she was offering a chance. I'll be staying for 2 more weeks to oversee the initial implementation of our plan, she continued. During that time, my door will be open to anyone who wants to discuss ideas for improvement. I'm not here just to point out problems. I'm here to find solutions. She looked around the room one more time. The meeting packets include your individual assignments and schedules for the new training programs. We'll reconvene tomorrow at the same time to address questions. That's all for now. As people began to gather their things, Pam added one final comment. Oh, and I'll be checking out of room 312 today. Apparently, there are better rooms available with actual ocean views. She allowed herself a small smile as Theo sank lower in his chair. The conference room emptied slowly as staff members filed out, their expressions a mix of shock, embarrassment, and worry. Tom Wells remained at the front of the room with Pam, watching as the last few people departed. Only Theo lingered near the doorway, his usual confidence replaced by visible anxiety. Ms. Bondi, he called hesitantly, could I speak with you for a moment? Pam looked up from her notes. Of course, Theo. Tom excused himself, leaving them alone in the conference room. Theo approached the podium, his hands fidgeting with his employee badge. I wanted to apologize for your check-in experience, he said, his voice wavering slightly. It was unprofessional and... I'm sorry. Pam studied him for a moment. Thank you for the apology, Theo. But I'm more interested in what happens next than what happened before. I understand. I just wanted you to know that's not who I usually am, isn't it? Pam asked, her tone not unkind but direct. Because according to guest feedback, similar experiences have been reported multiple times in recent months. Theo's gaze dropped to the floor. I know, things have gotten sloppy around here, but I do care about this job. I've worked here for 3 years. Then you remember when the Coastal Palms was known for exceptional service? He nodded. Yes, it used to be different. It can be again, Pam said. The question is whether you want to be part of that change. I do, Theo replied, meeting her eyes for the first time. Good. Then I'll see you at tomorrow's training session. She gathered her materials. And Theo? I'll be checking out of room 312 in an hour. I trust you can find me something more suitable? The presidential suite is available, he said quickly. Ocean view, private balcony. I'll arrange it immediately. That won't be necessary, Pam replied with a slight smile. A standard ocean view room will be fine, the kind I originally booked. Theo nodded, understanding the message. I'll have it ready in 30 minutes. After he left, Pam sat alone in the conference room for a few moments, reviewing her notes and planning her next steps. The staff's reaction had been predictable, shock followed by fear. Now came the crucial phase, turning that fear into motivation for positive change. An hour later, Pam was settling into her new room on the 12th floor. The difference was remarkable. Spacious, recently renovated, with a breathtaking ocean view from a generous balcony. This was what guests expected when they booked at a premium resort. Her phone rang. The corporate office calling for an update. "How bad is it?" asked Richard, the CEO of Meridian. "Exactly as bad as the numbers suggested," Pam replied, "but not unfixable." "Your recommendation?" "We keep the property. It needs a culture overhaul, not a sale." Richard sounded surprised. "After what you described in your email, I expected you to recommend cutting our losses." "The problems are with the people, not the property," Pam explained. "The location is still prime, the building is in good condition, and the amenities are excellent. We just need a team that knows how to deliver the experience guests are paying for." "And you think the current staff can be that team?" Pam walked out onto her balcony, watching the waves roll in. "Some of them, yes. Others will need to be replaced. I've given everyone 30 days to demonstrate their commitment to change. That's generous. It's practical," Pam countered. "Training an entirely new staff would be more expensive and time-consuming than rehabilitating the current one. Plus, there are good people here who've simply fallen into bad habits." "I trust your judgment," Richard said. "You have full authority to make whatever changes you deem necessary." "Thank you. I'll send a detailed plan by the end of the week." After the call, Pam spent the afternoon in meetings with Tom Wells and the department heads, outlining her expectations and the timeline for improvements. By evening, she was ready to see if any immediate changes were visible. She headed to the hotel restaurant for dinner, curious to see if the morning's meeting had made any impact. The host station was staffed by a young man she hadn't seen before. "Good evening, ma'am." He greeted her with a genuine smile. "Table for one?" "Yes, please. Would you prefer a window table?" "We have a lovely view of the sunset right now." Pam nodded, pleasantly surprised by the attentiveness. "That would be perfect, thank you." As she followed him to a prime table by the window, she noticed several staff members watching her nervously. Word had clearly spread throughout the hotel about who she was. The host pulled out her chair and handed her a menu with a flourish. "Your server will be with you momentarily. Enjoy your evening, Ms. Bondi." The service throughout dinner was impeccable, prompt, professional, and attentive without being intrusive. Pam knew it was partly because they were now aware of her position, but it still demonstrated that the staff was capable of providing excellent service when properly motivated. As she finished her meal, the restaurant manager approached her table. "Ms. Bondi, I hope everything was satisfactory this evening." "It was excellent," Pam replied honestly. "A significant improvement." The manager looked relieved but concerned. "I want to apologize for any subpar experiences you had before. I've already implemented some of the suggestions from this morning's meeting, and will be fully aligned with the new standards by the end of the week." "I'm glad to hear it," Pam said. "And while I appreciate tonight's service, what matters most is that every guest receives this level of attention, not just the regional director." "Understood. That's exactly what we're working toward." The next morning, Pam arrived early for the follow-up meeting. To her surprise, most of the staff was already there, reviewing the materials she'd distributed the previous day. The atmosphere was different, focused and serious, with none of the casual chatting that had preceded yesterday's meeting. As she set up her materials at the podium, Danny approached hesitantly. "Ms. Bondi, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday," she began, her usual smirk replaced by a thoughtful expression. "About giving people a chance to improve." "Yes?" Pam encouraged. Danny held out a folder. "I put together some ideas for the concierge desk. Ways we could better serve guests and track their preferences." Pam took the folder, genuinely surprised. "Thank you, Danny. I'll review these carefully." "I want to stay," Danny said simply. "And I know I need to earn that." Before Pam could respond, Tom called the meeting to order. For the next hour, they went through the new service standards in detail, addressing questions and concerns. The staff was engaged, taking notes and participating in the discussion. It was a promising start, though Pam knew the real test would come when the initial shock wore off. After the meeting, Pam spent the day observing operations throughout the hotel. She noticed small but meaningful improvements: staff members making eye contact with guests, housekeepers taking extra care with room details, maintenance issues being addressed promptly. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. In the afternoon, she scheduled individual meetings with each department head to discuss specific challenges and solutions. The food and beverage manager had particularly valuable insights about streamlining service procedures. "The kitchen is actually extremely efficient," he explained. showing Pam the timing data he'd collected. But we've had a communication breakdown between the kitchen and the serving staff. I've already implemented a new system that should reduce wait times by at least 15 minutes. Excellent initiative, Pam noted, impressed by his proactive approach. Not everyone was as receptive to change. The head of maintenance seemed resistant, arguing that his department was understaffed and overworked. We can't keep up with all the requests, he complained. It's not realistic. Pam pulled out the maintenance log she'd reviewed. According to these records, your team completes an average of 4 service requests per day. The industry standard for a property this size is 12 to 15. The man's face reddened. Those records don't show everything we do. Then we need better record keeping, Pam replied calmly. I'll be shadowing your team tomorrow to get a first-hand look at the workflow. By the end of the day, Pam had a clearer picture of which leaders were part of the solution and which might be part of the problem. That evening, as she walked through the lobby, she noticed Theo at the front desk helping an elderly couple check in. His manner was patient and helpful, a stark contrast to how he'd treated her 3 days ago. When he finished, he looked up and saw Pam watching. Instead of looking away embarrassed, he straightened his shoulders and nodded respectfully. It was a small moment, but it represented what Pam hoped to see throughout the hotel. People rising to expectations rather than sinking to bad habits. As she rode the elevator up to her room, Pam reflected on the day's progress. The initial response had been encouraging, but she knew from experience that sustaining change was the real challenge. Tomorrow, they would begin the more difficult work of addressing individual performance issues and establishing accountability measures.